Good morning. My name is Janice Justice, and I would like to welcome you to Stitching Traditions. This is the first in what I hope will be a series of videos looking back to a kinder, gentler era in cross stitching. And I hope that I can share some memories with you and recollections, and maybe even some ideas from what we're doing today that will help inspire you in your cross stitching. It's an art form that I very much hope stays alive, and I would like to see it return to its roots of beauty and just positiveness, positivity. And we're moving away a little bit from that. We'll talk about that more in another video. But I want to talk a little bit today about when and where I learned to cross stitch, what it's meant, and hopefully it will inspire you to seek that same kind of beauty for your home and your crafting. My mother brought me up teaching me to how to do crewel stitching, and that was really what was available then. I was born in 62, so she was a great seamstress, and I never really got the hang of the sewing machine or that kind of sewing. But she bought me in 7th grade a crewel kit that dealt with yarn. It had different colors of yarn, had everything you needed in it, and I never looked back. I absolutely loved that, and I felt success. Here is something that I could do. And she would buy me muslin fabric and some of the, I'm sure you remember these little envelopes with the uh, transfer patterns on them. I made a pillow for a friend. I did other things, and then I would buy the occasional kit when I went away to college and I was so homesick. I would sit and make a beautiful little garden picture from my parents when I, just to help assuage that sadness at being away a little bit. And I have that today, even downstairs. So those things were wonderful. And in as I went on, and I had two friends from my hometown that were up there. They were sisters, Cindy and Kim. I noticed that they did cross stitching. And it was getting more and more difficult for me to find these crewel kits in the stores. And remember, we didn't have all the big box stores, as they say, with crafting supplies. They weren't as easy to find as they are now. Walmart, gave us a few options, but even Walmart was turning to all cross stitching. And I thought, well, I don't know if I can sit there and make that many X's. They have a piece of fabric with no pattern on it whatsoever. They're having to look to the fabric, to the pattern, and all these different colors everywhere. What in the world? I don't know if I can do that. But they were very patient with me, and they taught me how to cross stitch. My first pattern was way too difficult for myself, but I was determined to do it, and I'm sure that for every correct stitch, there were 3 incorrect ones. But I made a gift for my favorite professor, and I've never looked back from that either. It was the most wonderful experience learning how to do that. We would come home in the summers, and we were from the same hometown, and we worked for businesses that her parents owned. We'd work till late at night, come home, go to my house. My parents were asleep, and we would come in and sit in the living room and cross stitch for hours, and then get up the next day and do the same thing. And those are some of the most cherished memories that I have of learning how to cross stitch and spending time doing that. And it's continued through my life. There's been times when children were little that I wasn't able to do quite as much. We homeschooled for much of their lives and for most of their public education, or most of those years we were homeschooling. So there were a lot of things that kept me from devoting quite as much time. But now they are all grown, and I still have two at home, but they're much more self-sufficient, and mom has a lot more time to return to cross stitching and crocheting. And as I have returned over these last few years, I've been a little disturbed by some of the trends that I've seen in the cross stitching. So I want to talk a little bit about that here and there, but today let's keep it positive. And I want to share with you 3 of the companies that meant the most to me in the 80s as I was learning. 2 I know are still actively publishing. The other still is very active in keeping the designs alive. The first of these 3 is, you'll recognize it as soon as you see it, designs by Gloria and Pat. And here is one. I haven't done this yet. I would love to do it. I have a figurine. You know, this is, it's beautiful. And on the flip side of this pattern, you'll see all kinds of others in the series. I think that Gloria and Pat were most noted for their beautiful Precious Moments patterns. And Miss Pat has a page of her own on Facebook, and you can find her. And there are some patterns that she sells and makes available through that Facebook page. And she has also very generously for this generation turned over many of her patterns to Patterns Online. And I will try to put some of this information here for you when this video is uploaded. But a new generation can go to Patterns Online and Everything Cross Stitch and find these beautiful patterns that harken back really to a gentler time in this craft process. And Gloria and Pat, Miss Pat, God bless you, and thank you so much for continuing in this mission of bringing beauty to needle and thread for us. Another favorite that really caught on, I think, in the late 80s and early 90s were leisure arts, and what they were noted for were patterns by, and I apologize for how you see this, but patterns by Paula Vaughn. And Paula Vaughn was and is a painter. She did not design these patterns, but she allowed the Leisure Arts Company to take these paintings and turn them into absolutely the most beautiful and feminine pictures that you can imagine, that harken back not only to lovely images of family and quiet life at home, but also the beauty of the front porch at the farm, and just a wonderful approach to cross-stitch pattern creation. And Leisure Arts made things very easy for us with their color patterns. And I think, but I wouldn't think Leisure Arts uses primarily DMC floss. I'm not sure if exclusively. I wanted to say exclusively, but I wouldn't take that to the bank. But Leisure Arts is still in production, making interesting patterns, and they have their own website and frequently provide free patterns that you can look into as well. And then lastly, I've saved my favorite for last, and I will devote a video to each of these companies or designers, I guess, designers companies down the road. But my very favorite is the Stony Creek company. I can't even tell you how much I love them. And they are not the easiest patterns to do, but they are consistently lovely and consistently, encouraging. And it's just, I can't wait to do a video only on Stony Creek. Here is a pattern book that I bought in the 80s, and you can certainly see that price, $4.48. That tells you that it goes back in a time. But it has all kinds of beautiful nature patterns in this, and I bought this because it had a pattern in it that I wanted to make my mom. Well, I never finished that. I have a closet of shame of all these unclaimed, unfinished patterns that I hope to one day finish. But this picture took on a new life to me with an incident in our family, and I love fawns and I love deer, truly some of God's most gentle and precious creatures. And I fell in love with this pattern all over again, and I decided to try it. And I want to show you what I've done. It is not nearly finished. I look to finish it about 2035. But here, now, my stitching is not as beautiful as some of that I've seen on some of these video channels. My stitching is not is it's I'll keep learning as long as there's breath. I'll try to keep getting better. But the richness of the color is just amazing. And I believe that is one of Stony Creek's two gifts. The first is the positive quality, the inspirational quality of their patterns. And the second is their beautiful use of color and layers of colors and gradations of colors to create a texture for their picture. It's amazing to me. And I have not encountered, I'm not as experienced as a lot of other stitchers with a great variety of patterns and designers, but I've never seen anyone like Stony Creek who can create almost a three-dimensional look simply by the shading and use of color. And it's just amazing. So I encourage you to go to their website, stonycreek.com, and see what you can see. Uh, every Friday they send you, if you sign up for it, they will send you an email with their updates, and they sell not only Stony Creek patterns, but they have their clearinghouse for other designers as well, and materials. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with um, the second wave of the COVID virus. I have no idea what's going to happen. But I would suggest to you, not necessarily that we hoard anything, but that you make sure you have what you need for stitching. If you have a project in mind that you want to do, go ahead and get the materials for it in case there is another shutdown. I thought that the craft industry must have enjoyed a marvelous resurgence in sales and interest in 2020 and all the difficulty that we experienced there with the lockdowns. People were discovering the joy of being at home again, and sitting quietly and doing something instead of running around in 50 different directions. And I know there was a lot of pain and difficulty involved also, but there were some positive things to come out of it. And I would go on these sites looking at patterns or looking, for materials, and things would be out of stock, sold out, sold out, sold out. Be patient with us. We're trying to get, we're back ordered. And I thought, in a way, what a wonderful thing that these companies are enjoying, you know, a renewed interest in them. But, go ahead and make sure that you've got everything that you need for your whatever project that you're working on. So, in any case, what do I want to achieve here? Talk a little bit about the past, talk a little bit about the present, talk a little bit about designers. And then I want to encourage you also. And I want to encourage you that with your cross stitching, to remember that you are making something lovely that will last. Um, when my mother and father were alive, I made things for them. I was able to retrieve them uh, when my mother passed away. My dad had been gone for quite a few years, and I tended to try to, after he passed, make her more things. It was just my way of dealing with being physically distant from her, um, and it made me feel better. And I know that she loved them very much, and I was able to retrieve them. So never underestimate how much pleasure it brings to someone that you have made them something. And as my husband always reminds me from Scripture, don't be weary in well doing. You're making something for someone that's giving a piece of your heart. And you know, maybe we can talk about how to budget our time and how to uh, make sure that we can stick with the project. I need some help with there, so I'll look forward to your advice with that. But never underestimate the beauty that a completed project brings to your home or to the home of someone that you love. And making all those little X's is certainly a joyful enterprise for you, the stitcher, and for whoever is blessed with this work. So, and these little beautiful things make a house a home. And I think I love to shop on Etsy, not just for cross stitch patterns or crochet patterns, but I love to shop on there for homemade things, because I think that really is what makes your home yours, and they add to the beauty of it. So I'm going to end here today, but I hope you'll look for my second video, and we'll spend some time talking about Stony Creek, and in turn some of the other designers that I mentioned. And we want to put the world outside and let it do its own thing while we have our needle and thread here. And I wish you well, and and think about what a wonderful investment of time this hobby is. And don't hesitate for 1 minute to let me know what you're working on and include some pictures in your comments if you like. Until next time, I wish you the Lord's richest blessings, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.